Hello and welcome everyone to the 2025 edition of Ananke's Festival of Literature. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here, and I would like to formally introduce my guest, Zara Maqbool. Zara Maqbool has written this amazing book uh, titled Sanya, and a little bit about Sanya. It is a contemporary piece of women's fiction that follows Sanya, a therapist and mother, as she faces the turmoil of an abusive marriage whilst also being haunted by her childhood trauma. Set in 21st century Lahore, Pakistan, Sanya's journey embodies courage, resilience, and the power of self discovery amid adversity. Perfect for fans of Delia Owens, Gabriel Zevin, and Claire Keegan, Sanya, a successful therapist who helps her clients navigate through conflict and trauma outwardly, has the perfect life. To them, she is an inspiring and optimistic person who through hope, brings positive change to their lives. In reality, Sanya's life is anything but perfect, and the secrets she carries are a heavy burden. Will she risk it all to strive for that perfect life, even if it destroys everything she has ever held dear? This is a story of one woman's journey that cascades through multi layered cycles of conflict and turmoil. This is the story of a wounded healer. This is Sanya's story. So, a little bit about Zara. Zara Maqbool is a psychotherapist and a freelance writer from Pakistan. Sanya is Zara's first novel and combines her passion for psychology and writing. So, welcome, Zara.
Thank you so much, Sabine, for having me here.
A pleasure. So Zara, tell me about first a little bit about yourself because the bio has not done you justice. So tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a therapist. I started training around 2014. I was freelancing for a very long time since college, and psychology was, was a subject that was very close to my heart. But I think back in the 90s, I didn't know that other than being a psychiatrist, there are other fields that you can also sort of, work through. And luckily, I, founded this training back in 2014, and it's almost been 7, 8 years since I've been practicing as a therapist. My specialization is in couple counseling, but I also work with individuals, ages 18 and above. And so I mean, I feel quite blessed that, both my passions, which is writing and psychology, I've been able to sort of, follow it and also integrate it in my life. And yeah, this is my first novel. And here I am. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so the first question that comes to my mind is this is not a biographical or
No.
autobiographical. No, yeah, because that's the first assumption everyone will
Yeah, I
make.
know. Yeah. And there's a question that a lot of people ask because obviously it's like, yeah, she's a therapist and, I mean, a mother and a wife, and so is it your story? The reason why I chose this story because I mean, for the first novel, you need to. I mean, this is closest to my heart. I know what it is like to be a therapist. I know what the work entails, and when I was sort of thinking about writing, I initially thought, okay, should I write something which is theoretical based on whatever my own learning is, and I felt नहीं अभी इतना काम नहीं आता कि उसके बारे में किताब लिखी जा सके. लेकिन जब मैंने mental health field when I entered, it is just beginning to sort of emerge in Pakistan, and I'm sort of an advocate of therapy, and through my writing also I've been trying to raise awareness about mental health for the last few years. So when I was thinking about my first novel, I wanted, like, the message out there for me was I want people to understand that therapy is an amazing thing to do, and it has got. I mean, you don't need to be depressed, you don't need to have anxiety, you don't need to have a mental health disorder to have therapy. Therapy can help you in whatever life circumstances that are there. And so, and the reason I wanted it to be fiction because I wanted people to relate to it, whether it's, a man or a woman. And so, which is why the profession, again, because I'm a therapist, this was close to my heart. It was, I guess, relatively easier for me to get into Sanya's sort of skin and body, and sort of write through that experience. But no, it is not my autobiography. And generally, when people ask me, I tell them, okay, my life is not so interesting that I'm going to, write 100,000 words about it. Not yet, at least.
Okay. So what has been the journey, the writing journey? How has it been for you?
I started in COVID, Sabine. I think every writer does have a fantasy of seeing the book on the shelves one day, and I think
Yeah.
I had it too. But I guess life, and then I started this profession, and I think the last 10, 12 years, I just immersed myself in training as a therapist, and I think, I mean, I was in touch with writing, but it sort of took a back seat. So during COVID, because the work sort of slowed down, and I thought, okay, how about I write a book? And it started with a very rough sort of sketch, something, an idea that I sort of sat with for a while. And like I said, Sanya sort of represents many women and men that I work with. And of course, I haven't talked about one particular client because of confidentiality, but the themes are themes that I did work with. I have worked with women who are like Sanya. I work with men who are like the spouse that is shown in this book. I have worked with women who's the mother in this character. So it's almost like every character has been my client. And so I thought these are important conversations, and these are conversations that we don't, have in Pakistan. There is so much shame around. So in 2020, I just started writing a rough sketch, and it took me 4 years. I rewrote this book at least 4 times, if I remember correctly. In between, I took a writing course because I thought, oh, I write well, but then I realized that when you write fiction, there are a lot of technicalities involved that I wasn't aware of. So then I took, in fact, two writing courses in between, edited it myself, asked a colleague to help me, sent it to UK for editing. So it was quite like back and forth for almost 4 years, four rewrites. And eventually, I think it was around 2023, then I was like, I'm done. There's nothing more left in me to give to this novel. And maybe it will, make sense to people, and maybe it won't, but that's it. And then I started reaching out to publishers, not too many, to be honest. Like, I think there was a lot of uh, it was an emotional experience writing this, because obviously, as a therapist, when you are sitting in an intimate space across people with such real life challenges, you are affected. So I did become Sanya during this process as well, and I think I also grieved, and I also experienced the joy, and her struggles and all of that. So it was a pretty emotionally taxing experience, if you ask me. And so yeah, for a while, then I just sat on this book thinking, do I even want to publish it? Maybe I just, the experience of writing was quite fulfilling as well. But then I felt, no, this is an important story to share. And even if one person is inspired and understand her journey and the message I'm trying to convey, then that's great. So I just reached out to one or two publishers, and luckily one of them picked up the book, and here it is. Yeah.
So who is your audience?
I think my
You
audience.
think who you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
is your audience?
So, I mean, I think it is a women-centered book, so one would imagine that it sort of falls in the genre of women fiction. But I mean, surprisingly, just last week, my friend's husband, he read the book and he really liked it, and he said he started thinking about his own marriage and how he can sort of look at things differently. So, I think, to be honest, my audience would be everybody. It would be men and women both, because the story talks about both the genders and the perspective of relationships and all of that. And for me, like I said, the bigger message is mental health matters, and we can all, just by working on ourselves with a different lens, accept and find peace in our relationships or our situations that may seem very taxing, to an outsider. So I think my audience is not just women, it is men as well.
I think I sort of agree with you because and I think if you ask me, I think it would be uh it should be targeted to men as well, because we all need deeper understanding of our spouses, of our relationships, of how society works, how uh, you know each and every individual, how what their mindset is. So, and I think by reading this book, it gives you another perspective,
Yeah.
because a lot of time it's not that yeah, sometimes patriarchy rules and all that stereotype that happens, but a lot of time, you know uh, the other person, and I'm not talking about just men or male and female. Let's not talk in binaries, but the other person needs to understand, right?
Yeah,
And if given a different perspective,
absolutely.
uh,
I mean,
they do
I would
better.
say, yeah. I mean, when I was writing, I did not just have women in mind. So
Yeah,
that's clear about. I did have males in mind as well because, and I'm not giving any sort of giving away what the book says, but yeah, the male is also equally important in this book, and ideally, it would be great if men can also read it because it, at the end of the day, it is about struggle of a human being and inner work is not discriminated by your gender.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So how has your journey been as a writer and a therapist, and uh, how how approaching publishers, even if they're one or two? What has that journey been like?
So, like I said, which is why some people ask me if this is my autobiography. Like, I mean, when I was writing fiction, I immediately knew that, I mean, I did little bit of research beforehand that if I choose a profession for the protagonist, I need to do research on that. If I write that Sanya is a banker, then I really need to then spend, maybe even do an internship in a bank. Like when I think of an next book now, I realize that the profession I have to really be in that character's skin to be able to write well. So that I was clear about, that the protagonist is gonna be therapist. I'm not gonna I mean that's sort of,
Yeah,
that's my comfort zone, right? And like I said, I think my writing feeds my work, and my work sort of feeds into my writing because I change as a person ever since I become a therapist, and I continue to change, and my writing also change. Like for example, in the first sort of draft that I wrote, and then in the second, as my training and my experience gained, I started to look at human relationships differently as well. I think initially, when I would work with women who have been abused or who have been in difficult relationships, I would become that woman in the room and immediately sort of align with them as a man hater, or as just looking at with the situation from the woman's perspective. This was like very early on, in
yeah,
my career and when I was training. But as I gained experience and my own personal therapy, as I changed, so I sort of went back to this book so many times because, and I actually had to change some things. And I was like, okay, I'm just sort of focusing on seeing one person as a victim. What about the other person's perspective? And I think a part of me still sort of feels that there was still more space to sort of develop the other character too. And one or two people even asked me that how come, whatever related to the story, and they were important questions. So yeah, I think my work as a therapist played a big role because my understanding of human relations is very different from how it was in my early years. And I think it's brought me more peace and acceptance when I look at relationships. Like empathy grew, understanding of really learning how to step into the other person's world changed. So yes, my experience really helped in writing. And I mean, I love being a therapist. I love my job. I think I'm very lucky that I found the opportunity. And I mean, I'm humbled. I mean, I'm grateful to Allah that He gave me this opportunity because बहुत से लोगों का, you have your passion, but you don't really get the chance to self-actualize in that field and sort of get the opportunity. And yeah, I think writing is something I'm going to continue. I do want to write another book. I'm not sure what it will be. Let's see. I think it will just sort of
that's
organically. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the most difficult part. Once you've written your first book,
Yeah.
there's the pressure is actually
Yeah.
on you
I
for
mean,
the
I
second.
I do think that it will be fiction for sure. I mean, part of me was thinking maybe this time I should write a sequel. And so in this book, Sanya is the woman and the husband in Arsalan. And I was thinking it would be very interesting if I write the entire thing all over again from Arsalan's perspective. So when Sanya was feeling this, what was he thinking? And that could be interesting too. But let's see. But yeah, I think just both the fields are. I mean, I have used writing as a way to talk about mental health. So I've been writing for the newspaper back in Pakistan for a while now. I write for South Asia magazine. I wrote about certain topics that I mean people were a bit upset about, for example, why can't women ask for sex and talk about sexual intimacy. So I think probably that also gave me the strength to write this book, because slowly and gradually over the last few years I've been pushing my own limits, and I've been working with my own internalized shame that I have collectively inherited from being a 90s kid from Pakistan. Like when I started therapy, I remember I literally couldn't say the word sex, and my supervisor used to say, "How will you work with a guy who has sexual addiction? How are you going to sit across him in an intimate setting, which is a closed room, therapy room?" And I was somebody who would start blushing, and I was like, "Oh my God, you're right. I don't think I." And I used to joke with him that I won't work with men then, because literally there's so much internalized shame around this. So I think a lot of my own personal development, I would say, and changes in my personality has played a big role in my writing and my work.
So you're talking about internalized shame, and I've been having these conversations about obscenity
Hmm.
and aesthetics. And when it comes to writing fiction, there's so many people who stood trial, like Manto. I was watching the movie Manto, and he said, whatever I'm writing, we're talking about obscenity, but
Yeah.
whatever I'm writing, it mirrors society.
Yeah.
So, what, in your opinion, as a fiction writer, entails obscenity?
I'm a little confused about it. Like you're saying, what would be considered obscene?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe.
No, in your opinion, as a writer, is obscenity? Because there's uh, when the public reads it, the public is not so much. There's not so much uproar from the public as it is from the gatekeepers. Not saying that there isn't an uproar when it comes to readers, but what is your view?
I mean,
Uh,
I
yeah,
would say it's person to person, right?
yeah.
Like I said, if you had asked me this question maybe 10 years ago, I would have found the book I've written to have some shades uh, of it being obscene, and I probably would have felt, oh my God, how could this woman little bit write about an explicit sex scene? How could she do that? I would have been shocked by my own writing if you had asked me this question 10 years back. Now, if you ask me, I think it's individual's choice. For example, if a writer from Pakistan wants to write explicit things, whatever, like related to sex, and that's what the entire book has to be, so be it, because it's not my place to be the sort of the I mean, I'm not the moral police for anyone here. I mean, so I really can't answer that, to be honest, because like I said, this book, when I wrote, and two of my friends have read it, one called me like, oh my God, Zara, how could you write it? What are your kids, what will your kids think, and what is your husband gonna think, and what is this? And I was like, I don't think there's anything obscene here. So this is a book for adult audience. And for example, my 12-year-old knows she's waiting 6 more years to read it. She's going to turn 18 and then she will read it. And that's fine. So it's all relative. And literally, like some people have found even whatever little bit I've written, which to me is not obscene at all. It is part of the story. They have felt shocked by it, because the story opens and there is the word sex in the second line, and they're like, oh my God. Like, for example, my mother-in-law, I mean, I wonder if I'm going to share this recording with her or not after quoting her. Probably not. But I remember, like, she's a very well, sort of, she's an educated woman. She's a master's. Back in 15, she was even like working for Radio Pakistan. And she called me and she's like, I'm very uncomfortable reading this. And I was like, why? And I knew why. So I was very innocently, I was like, why? I mean, what's uncomfortable about? She's like, sex का जिक्र ही बहुत ज़्यादा है. हर chapter पे sex का जिक्र है. And I'm like, and I said, last I remember, you are an adult. So that was her own internalized shame. And she's like, हमारे घरों में ऐसी बातें नहीं होती, तुमने तो बुक ही लिख दी. And I was like, well, I guess I like to push my own boundaries, and I like to perhaps, I do like to challenge the status quo. I think I've always been that person. I do have that sort of risk appetite where if people get uncomfortable with my voice, I not, I mean, I like that. I think a part of me likes
Yeah. And I'm talking about Manto, who stood trial, and so many others, D.H. Lawrence, and so forth. Um, but is it any different when it comes to women writing about sex or
100%. It's too much for them to, like I said, at the end of the day, this is not my autobiography, but this is how my mind thinks, which I've written, right? So, like my women friends who are therapists, who are confident, progressive, modern women, they still think, oh, don't publish it in Pakistan. Make sure you don't publish it. What if your mother reads? Like she was like, you're really exposing yourself because people around you, for example, my husband's friends are going to think, oh, she thinks like that. That's how she thinks about sex. That's how she. So it's absolutely, there's more shame and more moral, sort of policing when it comes to women. But that's exactly what I want to normalize. Just recently my son went to Pakistan and one of his friends took the book from his mother and then went up to him and said, "Yaar, ye dekho, do you know what your mother has written?" And I was so happy when my son very confidently said, "Yeah, she's written an adult book, so let's not read it now, but we can read it in a year or two." And so, I mean, I've normalized this in my household at least, and I think that that's a big thing. So absolutely, it's more women are more judged, and a Pakistani woman, um, yeah. I mean, literally, people said don't publish it in Pakistan. And like I said, this book doesn't even have Manto's kind of material or essence. No, it doesn't. But just still that element of boldness. And I have, of course, written about certain issues, incest, for example, that nobody wants to even say the word out. And when I came into therapy, like I said, I was shocked. I came from such a protective household that when I was working with every second person telling me about childhood, sexual abuse, people from army families, the good families that we consider who are privileged, who are educated, incest was so common, women having extramarital affairs and not just men. I was shocked. Initially, I think it took me 1 or 2 years just to accept that, okay, this really happens in good families. And so I did want to write about this, and I do want people to understand that everybody has a secret, but maybe secrets don't need to stay secrets. And we need to become more real and authentic in life. That we,
absolutely.
unfortunately, in Pakistan, we're not.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And I'm do you have your book with you? I
Yes, right.
forgot to mention. Yeah.
Yes, right.
So if you could read,
Okay.
share a few, I
Uh,
think that would be lovely. I forgot to mention that.
yes, yes. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm supposed to read it for my book launch as well, and I thought of a page. So you can go on, ask me something else, and I'll just try
Sure,
to,
sure, sure,
because,
sure.
yeah, just give me,
So
yeah, go on. Um, okay, I think I can read. I'll just read like two sort of paragraphs, maybe.
absolutely.
Should I? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't need to get the background of what the scene is from where.
A little bit would be
Yeah.
nice,
So,
just a
so,
little bit.
so basically, this is when Sanya's training has started, and so when you train as therapist, even when I train as therapist, and of course I share the same information over here because we have group therapy with our class fellows, so we are meant to share our stuff, and it's a very very scary and overwhelming experience because here you are exposing yourself not only just before your therapist but amongst everybody else, and
Yeah.
the idea is to so in this scene over here, Sanya gets challenged by her tutor a bit, and he sort of hits a nerve, and so that's where the scene is. Okay, so I had no idea who this was. The thought was followed by anger. I picked up the tissue box and unthinkingly threw it in the air and ran out of the room. My notebook fell on the floor. I didn't stop to see if the forceful throw of the tissue box had hit someone. Somehow, that box of tissues made my tears real. That gentle hand made me feel weak, and I hated being weak. I was strong. Isn't that what was expected of me? So why change that now? I dashed straight to the bathroom and quickly locked the door behind me, fearing that someone would follow and make me cry again and talk and expose it all. No, I won't let them. I won't. I could never tell a living soul about Ami. How could anyone think that I could share that secret? So I'm a bit sort of thinking if I sort of read out from this part, then it sort of gives away something important. So I'm going to skip a few lines. Dropping to the bathroom floor, loud sobs followed. This moment was heavy and overwhelming. I covered my mouth tightly with my hands and ran the basin tap so that the sound of running water could drown out the sound of my mourning. Grief. That's what I felt. That's what I always felt. As if someone close to me, someone within me had died. It had always felt like the death of a moment, a relationship, love, a lifetime. Sitting on that bathroom floor, I did not know what was coming.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Zara. Where can we find this book? How do we get this
Oh,
book?
in Pakistan, Readings has ordered copies. I mean, people can order online as well,
Yeah,
but now they're getting physical copies, so they can. And I'm also in talk with Liberty Books, so they're also going to stock it. Otherwise, of course, it's available in UK. You can order it even if you're in Dubai, but it might take some time to reach it.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
on Amazon, like as far as UK is concerned, on all their main online platforms, it's available.
Okay. So, can you tell me the name of the publisher? Sanya is the title of the book by Zara
Sanya
Maqbool,
by Zara M. By Zara M.
Zara M. All right. And we can get it via Amazon as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you just put it on Google, there are multiple options from where you.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So, any last words, Zara?
No, I mean, I would love, like I said, of course, I would want this book to reach as many people as they can because, like, the essence is, and I do think, especially with the kind of feedback that I'm, sort of getting, alhamdulillah, that I do think that this no, Sanya story will make you pause and think about your own inner demons, maybe, or your inner experience, maybe. And because I think all of us have had some sort of challenge or difficulty at some stage of life. I don't want to call it trauma because I think trauma has been really misused thanks to Instagram therapists and everybody wants like even this something that does it's a clinical term, let me just say that. But I do think that all of us have our own battles, and I think Sanya's journey will I hope inspire you to sort of pause and stop and think about what you want to do with yours. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Zara.
Thank you for having
Uh,
me. Lovely talking.
it's an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to more conversations.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and stay tuned for more conversations.